I'm Zoe Santoro, and I'll be doing English 10 for Miss Buckner. My character analysis was on Clarice. I said that her opinion differed from other people's. It wasn't very my gosh, I said it was just different. People didn't really understand what she was doing. She didn't think about her answers, so she didn't take time to think about what she was saying. She never ceased to ask questions. She was always full of questions and curiosity, wondering what this was and wondering what that was. She was observant, and one of my evidence was, and it was a quote from her saying, "We feel like there's a man in the moon," and right after she claimed she was pointing out something to Montag that he'd never seen before. So she just kind of opened up people's eyes. When I said she didn't think about her answers, a quote was from Montag saying, "You answer right off, you never stop to think what I've asked you." I put her face as bright as snow in the moonlight, which describes how pale she was. And I don't know why that analysis evidence is there, because I just said that, but I guess I'll go further into detail about it. She pointed things out that people wouldn't have thought to think about, or would have thought to see, just what people missed.
Alright, go on to the first slide. What do you mean by her opinion different from other people?
What she said wasn't normal. I can't really think of something too.
Why wasn't it normal?
It was different, just her opinion on things, the way she saw views. And
Like,
I don't know, I can't think of
I
it.
need to be more specific. No, I need to be more specific. What do you mean by, because you said her opinion differed from other people. So you should give her opinion how is it different?
I'm trying. When she met Montauk, she just started talking to a random stranger that she didn't know.
Okay. And why is it different?
Because most people would think that going up to a random stranger isn't a good idea, and just starting off a conversation with them.
Okay.
And she thought it was just fine, so she just did it.
What do you mean by she didn't think about her answers?
From this quote, from the quote, she didn't think about her answers. Montauk said, "You answer right off, you never stop to think what I've asked you." He asked her a question, and she just kind of spat out answers instead of taking a second to think about it. She just kind of rushed over it and didn't give it much thought.
Okay. So let's think about how Montag kind of does the same thing, right? Where he just spits out answers. How are her responses different from Montag's responses?
She was a little more curious into things, so she would describe things, I guess, more in detail than Montauk would.
Okay. Let's look at this quote. He said her face is brightest snow in the moonlight. What? And I think you go back to the first one. You kind of allude to that idea. It's obvious she's different, right? Why does Bradbury make her so obvious?
Maybe to add different things to the story. Montauk was this sad guy, and she was kind of more of the uplifting person, kind of more outgoing and just out there. And she brought up things that maybe people had didn't think of. So Bradbury probably just threw her in there to just kind of make the story flow. I just kind of went into more detail about her. She was different. I wasn't quite sure on what to say about her, but she was curious and she knew a lot of things that many others didn't think about or notice before. So just kind of pointed out the differences in life. Moving on to history. Okay, I'm Miss Jones. So I chose imperialism to talk about, and imperialism is when a stronger country takes over a weaker country to change its religion or cultures and laws. One of the things that would bring up imperialism would be white man's burden, and as you can see here is the white man carrying people of different races, and it was a big thing of racism. So they looked at it more towards they're like the scum of the earth, and it was basically their burden to have to take like care of them or like help them. The motives of imperialism was political, economical, religious, ideological, and exploratory. So political was more of nationalism. Economical was using other countries' resources. Religious was to spread Christianity and like the religion. And ideological would have been more of white man's burden. And exploratory would be people exploring new land for other people's resources. An example of imperialism would be Asia, because the Europeans took it over to spread their like religion and use their lands and resources. Yeah, that's it.
Can you go back to the first slide? What is missing from your presentation?
It's the thesis statement.
What is a thesis statement you could use?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Go forward to your slide, look at all your evidence. So, okay, go back to white man's burden. So why do you have that there?
Because I felt I could describe it more than I could just like write it down. So the picture kind of like, I use pictures better to describe things.
Okay, so you're talking about white man's burden. Go ahead to the next slide. And now what are you talking about?
Motives of imperialism.
Okay, so where would white man's burden fit in those motives?
And ideological.
Why ideological?
Because it's like an idea that they created.
Okay, can you define white man's burden?
White man's burden would be when oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. I remember there's a picture that you showed us, and it was when the white person took a tanner person or a person of different color into the lake and tried to like wash him of his color. So it'd be like trying to change him into their viewpoints.
Specifically, what viewpoint are they trying to change?
Basically their race and their color and where they came from and their religion.
What religion?
Christianity.
Okay, so look at your motives again. Where would white man's burden go under?
Religious.
Okay, so go to your next slide. Okay, so right now we have an example. And your example is Asia. Is there a specific country within Asia that you feel specific with?
Not that I can think of. Not that I can think of.
Okay, so you say you about your presentation?
The white man's burden.
White man's burden. So just give me a basic thesis right now.
Imperialism was like used through a white man's burden to change the people of different races, religion, and viewpoints.
So close the screen or close the computer. And then price the source search button, and then you can set up the document.
Which one should I start with?
Whichever one you want.
I guess I'll start with history. DBQ.
Sure.
So here, the question is, what is Gandhi opposed? Why does Gandhi oppose British rule in India? And I don't know how to explain this.
Talk me through a couple of your annotations.
One of my annotations was, when it says, because India has become impoverished by their government, I put like outruled or controlled, so they became controlled by their government. And it says they take away our money from year to year. And I put, they like basically took away the people's civil rights and their freedom.
Go ahead and move on to your thesis.
My statement was that Gandhi opposes British rule in India because the government has taken their simplest rights and freedom away. And I said the government has made living a burden and has caused it to become a white man's burden. And Gandhi doesn't like the way that people are being treated. And I put a quote from.
Okay, where does your quote belong for you to respond? What's the first sentence? What should you always begin a response with? A presentation. I just asked you to read it. A thesis statement. Why would you begin a DBQ response with a thesis statement?
So you can go more into detail about it, or just so you can get your idea from it?
Okay, so basically you have your main argument, your idea, and what should always come after your thesis to support it? A quote. So your evidence. Okay, once you have your thesis statement and your evidence, what should you then do?